Right, here we go. So today I'm benching for a change. We're 100 on. Is that pointing at the bench? It is. Cool. Right, we start with 100. Obviously, I've warmed up before this. 100 kilos. I know the other warm ups are super important, but I don't film them. Oh. So, what I did was I warmed up in the house, did a bunch of foam rolling and pokey jiggery. Not really. I just did a bit of warming up. Used a massage gun on my pecs and my shoulders. I find it feels nice. And then come out here. I did the bar for 20-30 reps, 60 for 3, 100 for 1. You just saw the plan is 142.5 for a single, and 4x4, 127.5 today. So that's a fairly meaty bench session, I think. Like, it's a good one. So we'll stick the 125 on. Yesterday, when I was squatting, I didn't realise. Well, I did realise eventually, but whilst I was mid squat session, I think after maybe one or two sets of 4, my phone died, and so I put it on to charge whilst I did the other sets of 4, thinking I'll just get it back on by the time I'm deadlifting. And the charger wasn't working. I think it was the cable that I've got in here. It's no good. And I didn't want to mess about waiting for it to charge to finish training. And by the time I do that, I didn't want to mess about finding the cable and everything, so I just didn't bother filming the rest of the session. It wasn't very exciting though, either, so there wasn't anything particularly heavy or hard. So today, bench. Providing everything goes alright, should be a good one. It felt heavy, but always does. Especially when I'm warming up. And then I'll go through the questions like I was doing yesterday. I don't know which ones I actually got through and which ones I ended up missing. So I'll go back to my list. I think I got the first couple done, and I will answer them as best I can. Yeah, and that shall be it. I was watching earlier on today whilst I was warming up. I don't know if anyone will remember this. If you do remember this, then please speak up. But if anyone watching remembers Brett Gibbs, so he was an 83 kilo lifter, and I just watched him do, I think it was a training total of like 830, 827.5 in the gym. But this is from like nearly 10 years ago. So although those numbers have been beaten now, at the time, that was insane. And there was a video of him doing, I think, 860 something. Although I think he weighed in at 90 something, like at close to 90 kilos. I don't know for definite. So I might be getting this wrong. So if I am, then I apologise. But the standard of lifting. So he had like, I think his best lifts were like a three something squat, a 220 something bench, and a 330-ish deadlift or something. It's just insane. He was just so much better than everyone else at the time. And then even now, he'd still be competitive now with those lifts from nearly a decade ago. Which is just mad. Anyway, Got 142 on to play with next. Right, let's start the velocity. Music wise, we have Pendulum on. Right. Nice, easy. That was good. I'd say happy 7. I think I could have probably done a few more with that. So that bench single has been trending up each week, which is nice. Kind of tempted to do my 4x4 heavier now, but I'm going to stick to the program. So yeah, that was a nice single. At this point, so with training, I spoke to the boss man, and basically what we're going to do is I'm going to do one more push for this block. So this week coming, so starting tomorrow, push the training hard for one last week, and then we'll do either a deload or an intra week, depending on how knackered I am, whether I need a traditional deload or I can go straight into an intra week. And then we're basically going to run more or less the same thing as I did leading up to the last competition. So I don't really need to change a right lot. With that working so well, the only major thing that'll be different is the deadlifts will be heavier, and I think we'll keep in a smidge more volume than we did last time for the upper body pressing, just to keep my pecs happy. The only thing that we've not settled on, not discussed at length, is the exact layout over the week, just because of practicality and how it will work with training at the other gym. So I believe that they have got a safety bar, so I could do like my eccentric work with that there. So that might be okay, but I need to figure out the exact way of doing that and make sure that is all going to work practically. And then it'll be, yeah, literally just rerunning the exact same block again, but with a bit more weight. I don't even know if I'll need to use that much more weight, especially for like the squats. So last time, I think we started at like 190, 195 maybe for the eccentrics. I mean, we could start, say I started at 200. If I start 5 kilos, yeah, say 5 kilos heavier for the whole block, for squats anyway. That could be nice. Right. Question number 1. I'm naturally a slimmer person. I don't know what to do to be able to lift heavy. This is very like... So, it's good to ask questions, but that question's a bit of a non-starter, because naturally skinny, it just means that you've not built much mass yet, and you don't know that you're inherently supposed to be someone that's skinny until you've actually given some time to training and eating more food. So the first thing is, I wouldn't identify with that as a personality. I wouldn't identify with being a naturally skinny person. Next thing is, you just need to train, get bigger, get stronger. This is not connecting to the Wi-Fi. I'll just crack on and do the first set. 127.5. So yeah, for that one, there isn't anything magic. So someone who is more inclined to be skinnier is probably someone that doesn't have naturally a very high appetite and is naturally, and is probably fairly active, doing lots of stuff with their hands, moving around a lot, doing a lot, forgetting to eat. So for you, it'll be more making a routine of making sure you do eat. That's the biggest thing. The training is not really going to be much different, but I'll talk about that in a sec. It's just 4 reps here first. That's fairly easy actually. I thought it was going to be harder. Average velocity 0.32. Fine. Right, so training. There isn't really much difference with training. The exception being, if you are inherently skinnier, I would probably do less cardio. I'm not saying to do none, but just because if you're already struggling to gain weight, I wouldn't do loads of extra cardio, because then you're going to have to eat even more. But usually, when someone says they're naturally skinny, it's just that they don't eat enough, and they don't eat it consistently. So that's it. That's the biggest thing that you need to do. Get a routine, stick to that routine, ensure that you are actually eating as much as you think you are. Do that regularly. Training wise, not really much of a change. Yesterday I was marking these off as I go, so I'll do the same again. Another bench one. Bench press plateaus help. So, because I've not got whose account it was open in front of me, my Wi-Fi isn't working. It would be the same as a plateau in any other lift. First thing is, check if you actually have hit a plateau. So how long has it been since you progressed, and how are you tracking it? Because if you're not tracking it, then how do we know? Next thing is looking at the rate of progression. So say your bench has gone up 2.5 kilos in a month. That's progress. That's still progressing. That's not a plateau. Now if you're max, if you're like in your first few months at the gym and that's all you've improved, then that's slow. But like if you've been trained for 10 years, that's amazing progress. That's real fast. So put it into perspective. I'd imagine, based on that question, you've at least been training for like a year or whatever. So you might just be that you're past the beginner gains and at the point of where it does take longer to get stronger. And that's fine. So common mistakes I see is people don't train the bench often enough. So they will bench once a week and they might max out or they'll do 3x10 or whatever and that's it. So first thing is I would increase the frequency for most people. Next thing is to make the actual bench training you're doing more specific to a 1 rep max. So if you imagine the reps you do, one side you got one set of 1 rep, the other side you got 3 sets of 30, for example, opposite ends of the spectrum. The further away your training is from this, the less specific it is, the less transfer it's going to have. So if all your training is over at this side, you want to shift some of it closer to over here, so it's going to have more of an impact. And this isn't like just that's it, that's for programming, it's not. But for most people, they're doing most of their training over here. Maybe here, like 3x10 or whatever. That's still a long way away from this. So I would do more training close to that if this is the goal. And then, as you get more advanced, you'll do different phases of training in different areas of this that aim towards this, like sequentially. Next thing, which could have been one of the first few, to be fair, is actually tracking stuff. Like, what have you been doing? What progress have you made? A real big one I see is people. So when people message me asking about coaching, one of the questions is, what current program are you doing? Like, send me a screenshot or send me the file or whatever. And they reply with, well, Monday I do back, Tuesday I do chest, Monday's chest obviously, Monday I do chest, Tuesday I do back, Wednesday I do arms, blah, blah, blah. That's a split, that's not a program. So I'd make sure you're actually on a program, whatever that program is. There's loads of free ones out there. If you want paid ones, message me, happy to help. I do have the app, which is like, every time, it's like closer and closer. So as of this video, I think I've got 360 exercises uploaded. I've got more to do. The reason there's so many is because I'm trying to make it as foolproof as possible. So there's no ambiguity and stuff. So it's, you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Let's see if this will load. It's not looking good. Don't know why the Wi-Fi is not working, whereas it was earlier. Oh, on to the next set, I guess. I think this is the third set. So 4 reps, nice and clean. Oh. That was alright. Still nice and clean. Was that set 2 or set 3 or set 1? It wasn't 1. It might have been 2. I might have to check the recording of this. I don't want to do not enough. I don't want to do too much. Especially with so if it was next week, I would probably just do more because I'm going to deload anyway. So it doesn't matter so much. And now my list is gone. That's it. You just have to listen to me sit in silence. Right, I'm just going to check this, see how many sets I've actually done, and then we shall be back in 30 seconds. It was 2. I've done 2 sets, so just 2 more to go. I really thought I'd done 3. Getting lazy. Don't know if you can hear this music. It's Pendulum. So I was watching the Brett Gibbs video. It reminded me like that period about a decade ago. I sound so old. Like in my early 20s. That was the powerlifting. So like watching on YouTube, it's like Candido, Brett Gibbs, Josh Hancock, if you remember him. JP Couchy was another guy. A bunch of people around then was watching for powerlifting training on YouTube before it really like exploded as a sport. It's like the last 3, 4, 5 years where it's really taken off. I remember like my first competition back in my day, there was a woman competing and it was like a big deal because it just didn't happen that often, which is insane when you look at the participation now. It's crazy difference. The only thing I would change about what I did or didn't do is I probably wouldn't have left for so long before coming back. I would have carried on doing it to a certain level the whole time. So I stopped 6, 7 years ago maybe, and then came back maybe about 3 years ago or something. So I had a decent gap. If I'd have kept going in that gap, I'd probably be stronger now. But would everything else? No is probably the answer. Would everything else in my life be the same? It wouldn't, no. So I don't know whether I would want that trade-off. But if I was to talk to someone else who was a powerlifter, same age as I was then, I would tell them to just keep going, even if it's at a lower level, in terms of like, you can't dedicate 2 hours, 5 days a week or whatever. Go down to 3 days a week, or an hour, 5 days a week, or whatever, you know? Sounds like someone's here. I'm just going to pause this. Actually, I'll do this set first, and then I'll pause it. Oh. 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 Not gonna lie, I wasn't concentrating very well then. I was listening. I'll be back soon. was the right decision. We did have people coming over, and so that last set, I was like listening to what was happening whilst I was doing it. So then obviously I wasn't concentrating, and whilst it's not that heavy, it's heavy enough that if I drop it, it won't be very nice. So I've just got one set left now. So I went, say hi. I've been gone 5 minutes or so, so I've had a decent rest. So we will crack on. I will crack on with this and get this done. I don't recognise this. It's just a Pendulum radio, so I don't know a lot of the songs. But I just like Pendulum. And then it'll be on to Pump City, by which I mean Close Grip. Concentrate now. That was good. Last one done. Next up, nice and easy, some close grip bench press. So drop the weight substantially and then crack on with that. To be honest with you, I didn't really want to stop the work that I was doing today. You know, when you're in the zone, but I've got other plans and stuff. That's the problem with being semi-social. So last week, I had 3 sets of 8, 95 at RPE 778. This week, the plan is 4 sets of 8. So I'm gonna we'll go 100. That's a reasonable jump. Well, I think it's a reasonable jump anyway. We'll start at 100 if I need to. I can always go down, but to be honest, let's be honest, I probably won't. So it's supposed to be 4x8 at RP 8 this week. So volume up and intensity up. So it's okay if it ends up being a bit harder. And then next week is basically just push everything really hard. For the safe stuff anyway. So like I won't be, for example, squatting to absolute failure, but I will push them hard. But like the accessory sessions especially, they're going to be great fun this week. So the dumbbell press specifically, I'm looking forward to. So I got up to doing the 40s on the incline for sets of 5, pushing it to RPE 9.5 will be interesting. See if I can get close to 50 maybe. I don't know, we shall see. So 142.5, let's put the RPE in on this. That was RPE 7, which gives us an estimated max of 160. I concur with that. 0.27 meters a second. I wrote out earlier the rough weight progression leading into the competition. I wonder if it's come through on this. We'll find out in a second. So aiming for sets of 8 with not as much of an arch and stuff. It's just trying to actually get the muscle working. It's logged me out of Messenger, so I can't pull this back up. Yeah, no. I can probably try and remember. Close grip bench. Set 1. That was good. That's a weird one. So although it actually feels really easy, I don't know that I could have done a ton more. I'm going to call that a 7.5 on that set and start the rest timer. So, training. So, next week, hard week. Week after deload. Then I think 2 weeks, then do the first competition. I think for the first competition, I'll go something like 240, 150, 240. And then each week we'll be chipping away a bit more up until the final week before the competition, where I will hit, not the week of, the week before. Last time my top weight was 265 in the gym, so I'll probably go 267 for the last weight. My best bench in the gym was 155, so I'll probably try to go 157. My best deadlift in the gym I think was 222 or 225. We're planning to be going up to about 250 in the gym, so that'll be where the biggest chunk of the total comes from. I think that'll be reasonable, and then do that. So with nutrition, there's some stuff I don't remember how much stuff I haven't talked about. I'm basically trying to improve nutrition more. So yesterday and today's nutrition and the last couple of days has been significantly better in terms of I've not had any like bloating or issues. So the combination of foods that I'm having obviously are working well for me. Whereas prior to that, I was still some days upset stomach, which is obviously not ideal. I think part of it is due to the volume of food. But another big part of it, which I think is maybe more of a contributing factor, is having such massive meals on an evening, and then basically having massive meal and going straight to bed, like within half an hour to an hour of each other. So I'm having like sometimes close to 2,000 calories, then going to sleep, which is probably not ideal. And then also because I'm not moving after having had them. So I've been eating earlier than normal in the evening, and I've been trying to front load more of my calories, have more in the morning. So that seems to have made a difference. I've stopped buying the salmon that I was buying. I don't think it's salmon. I think it's the specific salmon I was getting. I didn't really put two and two together. It's really cheap. It's got bones in it. I don't know if the quality of it is off or what, but there's something about that. I don't know if that was a contributing factor or I'm imagining it. But anyway, I stopped having that. I swapped it for a different brand of salmon. That seems to be fine. And I had, so today before this session, I had a steak, about a kilo of potatoes, fried up some mushrooms and some onions and some eggs. So that was like 100 grams of protein and about, I think it was about 1,700 calories. But that's 2 meals, so split into 2. I feel good for having had that. So nutrition seems to be on the upwards trajectory, which is good. Right, that's the rest timer done. Don't know this song. To be fair, I don't know this one either, but right. Oh, there we go. That's the jelly feeling in this arm. It hits me all of a sudden. It goes to jelly. So it felt like if I'd have tried to do another couple more reps, this arm just feels like it's going to fall off, which is ridiculous. Let's see if these questions have loaded. No, still no signal. Yeah, there's nothing I can do about that. Oh, here we go. There we go. I'm just going to screenshot these actually. Ah, I didn't screenshot it. What an idiot. There we go. Right, sorry about watching that if you did just watch that. What I think I'm going to do is get a Wi-Fi extender in here so there's better signal. So, specific question. Next one, tendinitis in my bicep, which is affecting my workouts. So, with tendinitis, it's usually from overuse. And when I say overuse, I don't just mean like you've done too many curls. I mean the tendon itself has been stressed to a level that it can't handle or adapt from. That's the important thing, or adapt from. So what that means is you need to let it recover. However, blood flow to tendons is not always the best, and they often take a long time. So you want to encourage them to heal. So you want to get more blood flow to the area. And you don't want to stop using them completely. So for your bicep and with the tendon, with any injury, it's all it is a case of too much stress for one particular area to handle. So in the case of like a broken leg from trauma, it was too much stress that went through the leg, and so it broke it. It can come all the way back to like a tiny version, which would be like an abrasion on your skin. It's too much stress for the skin, so it's caused the skin to rip. Same thing with tendinitis, it's too much stress. Now, that means that there is a cause of the problem, which could be something acute, like short-term, freak accident, trauma, whatever, or it could be something chronic, so something that's been ongoing for a long time. So for example, say you get this tendinitis when you're doing a deadlift block and you're doing lots of pulling in that position there, and when you pull, your arm's not fully extended, you've got a slight bend in it. So it's a lot of extra stress on that tendon, and you notice it gets worse through training block when that's the only thing that's different. That could be the contributing factor as to why you've got tendinitis. It could be that when you've increased your bicep training from twice a week to 3 times a week, you start getting it then. So there's lots of different things that could cause it. So I would be trying to establish what's caused it so that we know that for future and we can avoid doing the thing that's irritating it. So in the example of the bicep with the deadlifting, a short-term fix would be go double overhand and use straps. A more longer-term fix is you could do both ways. A much more longer-term fix is make sure you've actually got that full extension through your elbow so you can straighten your arm. A different fix might be start pulling hook grip so you don't have that issue. It might not be that, it might be something else. So first we'll look at the long-term fix, because we want to be doing that in the background and avoiding the things that are making it worse. Then we need to look at recovering it. So for recovering, I would look at trying to do the things that don't cause you any pain. Inventive, I know. They're the things that are going to help promote blood flow to the area. So for example, let's say it's that example of the deadlifting, but you can do really light curls. So with the really light curls, you might find that helps with blood flow to the area. So use them. The other thing is eccentric loading seems to help chronic tendinitis. Now, I'm not a physio. This is just from my most recent understanding of the literature. This is my opinion right now of what I think would be best. But all of that is with the caveat of that I don't know your specific situation. So the person to person, it could be completely different. 10 years time, research might look completely different. I might have a completely different opinion. So I'm just going based off my thoughts right now. And beyond that, it would be giving it time. I realise that's maybe not helpful, but without more specific details, can't really help you too much. Sorry about that. No. I was going to start going off more, but I don't want to give you some advice that's not relevant to you and potentially make things worse. None of this is medical advice for informational and educational purposes only. Copyright something, disclaimer, whatever. Right. That was good. Bit erratic on the reps, I must say. Could have been cleaner. I felt like I was starting to move where the bar placement was each rep. That's the thing as well, coming out here. I know I'm going to film it and watch it back, and there's nowhere to hide of like doing anything sloppy or whatever. Like I would never intentionally do it, but sometimes it just happens. So that's a good reason to film this. So I've got it for future me. That was set 3, I believe. And give that one 8.5. Probably looked easy. Don't think I could have done much more than 1 or 2 of them. So, next question was, I'm struggling with consistency in training, and I'm struggling with staying disciplined. So, lots of different things going on there. First thing is, you've used the right word, which is discipline, because that's what it will take for after a certain point. So people will start training all excited and motivated, but lose interest, and then they're not as disciplined because they don't keep doing their thing. Now, that doesn't mean you're a bad person or anything like that, but what you have to do is you have to accept whatever you said your goals are your goals, and you have certain things you need to do to get there. If you don't want to do them, and you're okay with not reaching your goals, that's fine too. Nothing wrong with that. But it's having the self-awareness to know that. So if you're like, I want to be the best powerlifter I can be, but you're skipping workouts, then like at the base level, you don't truly want that. And that's fine. That's completely okay. Like there's absolutely no issues with that. You just have to be real with yourself and know that you don't actually want that. You don't actually want that outcome that you say you do. So first thing is like have a reality check with yourself of do you actually want to do the thing? So if you don't, then don't do it. Like there's loads of different ways of being physical and active and getting results in the gym. Don't powerlift if you don't want to powerlift. The same with any kind of training. Like no one's making you do it, you get to do it. That's the first thing. So on a base level, make sure it is actually what you want to do. Next thing is, say this happens once in a blue moon. It's almost never that you don't want to train. So I'm probably in this category of person. It's almost never that I don't want to train, but it does happen. Now, the framework in my mind is this I don't want to train for an emotional reason or a logical reason? Is it because I've injured something? I've not slept properly, I've not had good nutrition, I don't have time to do it properly. Like, is it an actual reason or is it an excuse? Is it just that, oh, I can't be bothered, it's going to be hard? If it is, then I'm like, you should go and get on with it. Like, it just needs doing. If it's a logical reason that you don't want to train, then fine. Sometimes self-preservation is smarter. Like, tearing your pec will permanently reduce your capacity to have a big bench, but missing one session won't. So like, if you've injured something, you're probably better off resting. But if you're finding that you just, every time you're feeling lazy, you just don't train. Like you're just setting up a pattern in your brain. You're just learning, when I'm tired, I just won't train. And then you're just reinforcing that every time you do it. And then you become the kind of person that doesn't do the thing that they said they were going to do. And again, with all of this, if that's who you want to be, then fine. You don't have to do it. It doesn't make you a bad person, but it doesn't make you the kind of person who's going to be able to do the things that you said you wanted to do. So that would be my advice. In terms of consistency within training, that's looking at routine. So like, based on your work pattern, what time can you train regularly? Then work backwards off that. So figure out when you can train, when you can sort out your food, when you can do the other things you need to, and figure out a way to make it all fit within your life. If you can't do that personally, get someone to help you. Hire a coach, hire someone whose job it is. So obviously I'm one of those people, but there's loads of other people as well that you can get in touch with. If you're not sure, message me and I'll point you in the direction of someone else. Like you need to figure out a way to make it fit in your life if it's something that you actually want to do. So all of this, I just think, comes down to motivation. If you're not motivated, you don't have to be motivated to do the thing, you just have to do the thing. It's like most people have it backwards. They think I need to be motivated to go do the thing. But actually, when you start doing a thing, you'll feel more motivated. So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you're struggling with consistency, figure out if it's actually what you want and make it a thing. That means you don't have to be super motivated and miss the willpower to get it done. So that makes it easy for you. Speaking of getting things done, this is my last set. Let's try and make these ones a bit cleaner than the last set was. And then it's on to the worst exercise of the week. That was tough. I say it was tough, like, mentally it was easy, systemically it was easy, but it was tough to keep my technique consistent because my arms felt like they were just going to collapse, especially my triceps just felt like they were going to fall off. So that's the thing as well of like with the consistency, make it so that the thing you're doing is fun. And if you don't find training fun, you don't have to do it. Like I keep saying, the only time you have to do it is if it's required to do the things that you deem important to you. So like, I don't understand I struggle with consistency from someone whose goal is to be like a high achiever. It's not that you struggle with consistency, it's that you don't value the outcome that you want. You don't value the outcome that you say you want as much as you say you want it. Which, like I keep saying, is fine. But it's just a logical fallacy to think that you can have the best possible results without the best possible inputs. That's not to say like you have to kill yourself every time you train, but like skipping sessions is just a super basic thing. Like if you're skipping sessions, what do you expect? I truly don't get it. If your goal is want to be a bit stronger, feel a bit better, get a bit fitter, whatever, more general, cool, fine. Working on consistency is super important and it is worth doing. That's not to say that it's not worth doing it for the other people, but like, it shouldn't really be a question. You should just get on with it. So yeah, it's how much do you want to? I don't want to sound like a douchebaggy motivational poster or something, but like, if you really want to do something as much as you say you do, then it's a non-issue. Right. Speaking of, I don't want to do this because I'm so bad at it, which is why I should do it. Just going to move you so you can see my glorious triceps or something. So the plan for today is set of 8 on strict press. I wrote down 50 optimistically. Last week I did 45, 47, 45, 45 for sets of 8. If I just go straight to 50, then I don't know if I can get 8, to be honest. I I am disappointed at how weak I am at this. It's just because I don't do it, I think. So I'll go straight to 50 for the first set. So then if I drop down to 45 after that, if I need to, then it's still more than I did last time. It's still progress. I think once I'm done with 700, I might have like a side goal to get to like 100 kilo strict press. I just think that'd be awesome. I wonder how much of a transfer that would have to my bench as well, because it might have none, or it might have loads. The first thing to do is do 50. That's pretty poor, isn't it, really? I've had lots of people message me about how weak this is. Basically, the gist of it is, are you actually trying? Yeah, it's just that bad. And if you look at my physique, like, I'm not that I've got some muscles, I'm not like super jacked. Like, my shoulders are fairly big, especially compared to my pecs. But this just sucks. In terms of how good I am, not in terms of the exercise. I think the exercise is great. Right, let's crack on. Set one. That's actually a PB. Would you believe it? Oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I think I'm going to stick with that for my next set. Still feeling a bit like jelly, but it was alright. Start the rest timer. I'll stick with 2 minutes rest on this. Yeah, all I've got left is 3 sets of 8. Now, with it, well, 4 sets of 8 is a workout, so 3 more to go. And that'll be it. Next question. Training for size, but I also want to improve my strength. So, with that, so training for size and training for strength are not mutually exclusive, but it depends on which is your actual priority. So whichever one you prioritize, you will make more progress in. So if you're, remember I talked, do you remember? Nobody watches this far through. You remember I talked about over here, you've got your 1 by 1, and over here you've got your sets of 30. So all of this works for getting bigger and stronger. But some of it's slightly better than others, and more specific than others. If your goal is purely size, then you're going to be doing more volume in general. If your goal is purely strength, you're probably going to be doing less volume and more weight, as simple as that is. So what you need to do, like with everything, is decide what exactly your goal is and define what that actually means. So when you talk about strength, do you mean your 1 rep max? Do you mean your absolute strength? Do you mean sets of 5? Do you mean you just want to put more weight on the bar? What exactly does that mean? Because once you know that, you can build your plan around it. Now, the approach I would take is I would do it physically. So I would do periods where your primary focus is to put more muscle tissue on, more actual contractile tissue, more muscle mass. Now I'd have phases where you're trying to get that muscle mass to express more strength, so to be stronger, to show off that strength. The ratio of that would determine what you're leaning more towards and what that means to you. The other thing as well is size. I assume you mean muscles and not just fat. Because if it's just fat, then just eat more. So they're worth bearing in mind too. I will talk more about this in a second in terms of what you need to do. But for now, more presses. Bet that was loud for you. Set 2, that was alright again. I'm going to stick with this weight, at least for the next set, and we'll start the timer. What was I going on about? Size and strength, right, yeah. So nutrition will be the biggest determining factor of whether you will gain size or not. When training for strength, you probably gain some size just by accident. And when training for size, you will gain some strength just by accident. For natural lifters especially, because rate of size increase is very slow and hard to measure objectively, strength is a fantastic indicator of that progress. So if you know that you could squat 140 for 10 and now you can squat 180 for 10, you probably gain some size on your legs, your glutes, your back, as in like your erectors and supporting muscles. I don't mean like your lats. Squat's not going to make any difference to that. Whereas if you're training for just size and you don't track anything like that, you'll be able to see the changes, but not for a long time if you're natural. If you're enhanced, you'll see them much sooner. You'll see them faster, so then it's a bit easier to use. The other thing is when you're enhanced, you'll get stronger so much faster that it's riskier, so you're probably better off staying away from trying to get super strong. If you're enhanced and looking for size, it's just a higher rate of injury. It's a higher risk for injury. Now coming back to the size versus strength thing. So I've decided exactly what it is that you mean. So your nutrition is going to determine whether you're in a calorie surplus or not. That's not going to make any difference. And the specifics of the training, so more hypertrophy style training, will favour size to a certain extent. More strength training will favour strength. But you do need both for strength. You don't need both for hypertrophy. So basically all you need to do, if you're effectively power building, is train both. But you can do them together. If you do them both together, you'll make not as good results in either. If you do them in phases, you'll probably make better progress. So I talked about this yesterday, of the different phases of training, like the hypertrophy blocks, strength blocks and so on. It would just be the ratio of them that you do that would change things, and also how much of the accessory type stuff that's not relevant to the strength movements that you do. So everything you do that's not relevant to your squat, bench, deadlift is wasted volume if your goal is powerlifting, for example. But it's not if you also want some size. So for example, say I wanted to do the combo of the size and the strength. I would probably do more work on my side delts. I don't really train them very much. I mean, apart from anything, they're relatively developed compared to other body parts, but I would spend more time training them. I would spend more time on biceps, for example, on the other muscles that aren't getting worked as much as a normal training. So like my arms, for example, are not very well developed from the top, but from the bottom they are. My triceps are, so all the pressing, because it's strength related. Whereas if I was training for hypertrophy, probably wouldn't do as much tricep work because it doesn't need it. So it's all just about deciding exactly what you want and just structuring things appropriately. Right, time's done. Let's see if I can do this for a third set. Can feel the jelly everywhere on that one. so unstable. I feel it triceps and my traps, even my abs. I don't really have abs, but even my abs. I think I'm going to try do that for my last set. That'd be good. Anyway, so next one. So I'm not doing the ones that are super broad or the ones that are ones I've already talked about. Unsure about timing of progressive overload. That's actually a good one. So I paraphrased these questions so that it's not hyper specific to each person, because I did it on Instagram Live. I replied to the individual person. So now I'm just doing it to try and help more people. So when to use progressive overload. So progressive overload, you've probably heard, is adding more weight or doing more reps or more sets over time so that you make more progress. I would suggest that that's not the best way of thinking about it. So that's a good start. The step further I would take it is to think about progressive stimulus. So progressive overload is the externals, in my opinion, of sets, reps, weight, is the numbers you can write down. Progressive stimulus is what your body's actually being asked to deal with. So if you start, you've had a week completely off, you go into your first session and you bench 100 kilos for 5 sets of 5 reps. You then, the next week, come in and bench press 100 kilos for 5 sets and 5 reps. After having done a whole week of training and other stuff. That isn't progressive overload in the traditional sense, because you haven't done any more sets, any more reps, or any more weight. But it is more stimulus, because the prior week you hadn't done anything. So you're doing a 5x5 fresh. This week you're doing the 5x5 after all the other stuff. So you've got the cumulative fatigue of everything else before that bench. So that's super important. So it's worth knowing the context around what you're doing, so you can look at, is there actually progression there? So if you, for example, week 1 of a block do 100 kilos for 5x5, and week 8 of a block also manage 100 kilos for 5x5, but with a caveat that you've been doing a bunch of other stuff, that can actually be progress. So it might not be progress in the sense of that, like you do more weight, more sets, more whatever, but it is progress. You have done more because of everything else. And on top of that, we also want progressive overload. But what this means is, with knowing with knowing about progressive stimulus, it means that you don't have to get married to every single week, every single block. You have to add on more weight, sets, reps, whatever. You can still make progress. So if you watch these videos, you'll see a lot of times I talk about my base strength. So the strength at which I'm not peaked or anything, what I can hit then. So it's not progressive overload because I'm not lifting more weight, but it's progressive stimulus because given the context of everything else, I can do the same or more. So that means it's progression. Now, to come back to the original question of when to implement progressive overload, I would say as often as you can to not go backwards, basically. So whenever you get the chance to do a little bit more, I would do a little bit more, with the caveat that it doesn't make you go backwards. So it would make you go backwards if it's too much. So say, for example, this set of 8 now, I reckon it's going to be about RP9. First set was about RP7. The target is 4 sets of 8 at RP8. It's going to average out about right. If I went up in weight on this is going to knacker me. So when I come to press again in a day or two's time, I'm going to have a worse performance. So that wouldn't be a good time to be really trying to push the progressive overload on this. Even further, whereas it already is more than last week anyway. So next week is just before a deload. That's where I would push as hard as I can because I know I'm going to have a rest. So this progressive overload is not ruining anything from the future, so it's getting more of the gains where I can. With that said, I can't remember where I was going with that tangent. I've just got one more set to do and I'm getting hungry, so get this done. I hope the mic done. It's actually a PB for even one set. So for doing it for 4 sets is awesome. I think I could have done one more, maybe 2. It feels like I'm not locking my arms out at the top. Feels like I can't quite get that full extension. And also, I'm very close to that. So although normally I would say you should use a full range of motion and all that other good stuff, I'm not that concerned about this. I'm intentionally not trying to overextend at the top so I don't hit this. And I don't want to faff about going outside. If, when I next bench in competition, I fail the rep here and can't do that lockout, then I will eat my words. And this was entirely my own fault, and this was a stupid decision to make. But I can't see that happening, to be honest. So that's my excuse. Now my arms feel like they're going to fall off. That was a good session, actually. It was fairly chilled, but got the work done. So now I'm going to go and get something to eat. I've got a couple beef burgers, and I'm going to have something else with them. So a couple of beef burgers, maybe some, probably potatoes, because they always sit really well on my stomach. So one of the things I'm going to do later on today is actually just write out what nutrition stuff I'm doing, remove the guesswork a bit more. As I'm getting close to competition, it's easier to just have it preset. With that said, I will see you next time I upload a video. Take care.